when it opened the Trump-Russia collusion probe during the 2016 election.
And now House lawmakers are calling for Durham to testify on Capitol Hill next week.
Well, that'll be great. Alexandria Hoff is live in Washington with the latest. Alexandria.
Well, good morning to you. Yeah, this report, more than 300 pages, the culmination of 4 years worth of work. And at the core, the question was, did the FBI properly vet what ended up being politically motivated evidence that was brought to them? Durham's answer is no. In the report, he writes the DOJ and FBI failed to uphold their important mission of strict fidelity to the law. Senior FBI personnel displayed a serious lack of analytical rigor toward the information they received, especially information received from politically affiliated persons and entities. Durham says that the apparent ploy by Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign to tie then-candidate Trump to Russia fell short of amounting to provable criminal offense, but concluded that given uncorroborated intelligence, the FBI should have questioned whether leads were coming from Trump opponents rather than jumping to rush and investigate. The FBI did offer this response, quote, "The conduct that Special Counsel Durham examined was the reason that current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions, which have now been in place for some time. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in the report could have been prevented." Now, the former president, he also reacted to this report, telling Fox News that former FBI Director James Comey needs to be held accountable. He said, and much more importantly, the American public, have been victims of this long-running and treasonous charade started by the Democrats, started by Comey. There must be a heavy price to pay for putting our country through this. Now, in the report, Durham also states that in July of 2016, the CIA had caught wind of the Trump-Russia allegations and briefed the Obama White House about an effort to frame Trump by the Clinton campaign. Guys.
That's right. People forget it was during the Clinton years that this was launched. Alexandria, we are talking about a time period,
Obama
6 and 7.
Yeah.
Obama, right. They wanted it, the Clinton White House. We are talking about a time period 6 and 7 years ago. The people involved, long gone now, right, from the FBI?
Well, yeah, many of them are. And we also have to remember in this that this Durham report, it contradicts a previous probe by the Justice Department. Then they said that there was sufficient justification for the FBI to open its investigation. So some of the people working then felt justified in that. But yeah, the FBI is saying that they've essentially cleaned house and that these missteps wouldn't happen again. They want to gain the faith and continue having the faith of the American public.
All right. Alexandria, thank you.
This is one big political smear, all to influence an election. And so many people, it was revealed yesterday, what we already knew and what many people were already saying and had been for years, that the FBI knew about it and was lying about it. The Clinton campaign was lying. Adam Schiff was. The intel community. And this all dates back. Remember, Christopher Steele and his dirty dossier, they were funded by the Clinton campaign and the DNC to say that there was collusion between Donald Trump and Russia. And that investigation was called Crossfire Hurricane. And that's what Durham was looking into to see if they had any evidence that there was collusion. And he says there wasn't.
An Australian ambassador goes up, goes to a pub and gets close to Papadopoulos. He says something about Hillary Clinton's emails. They take this information, they contact the FBI back in the U.S., who cuts a hold of Andy McCabe. McCabe tells Peter Strzok, start a counterintelligence operation. So they start investigating George Papadopoulos. They start investigating Michael Flynn. They start investigating Carter Page. And they start looking into their background without anything verified. No one called up the ambassador. Where'd you get this information? No one really went out of their way to find out where this investigation was going. Next thing you know, they launched this into the Trump campaign. Never told Trump, hey, I got a problem, and Paul Manafort's the fourth. I got a problem with 4 of your guys. We're investigating to see possible links to Russia, where when they had a problem with Hillary Clinton or emails, they gave them a defensive briefing about Russia possibly infiltrating the election. They never did it to Trump. Next thing you know, they launch it into Trump. And this thing happened during the campaign, through when Trump won, was president-elect, and then through his first 2 years. In between, the Mueller report gets launched, lives get ruined, our relations with Russia is destroyed, and the president, whatever you think he accomplished, and he accomplished a lot, think about what more he could have done had he been just treated like a normal president and not investigated like he's a convicted criminal.
Well, it will be interesting to hear whether or not Mr. Durham does go and sit in front of the House, as Jim Jordan has invited him. I think the official letter went to the Department of Justice. But it didn't have to, because Mr. Durham, pictured right there, is no longer the special counsel. With the, the issuance of this particular 316-page report, he, for the most part, is done. Mark Levin was on with Sean last night and had this observation about what happened during that time.
This massive federal edifice that's been built in Washington, D.C., works for the Democrat Party. It's an appendage of the Democrat Party. When we have Republican presidents, they sabotage the Republicans, they'll investigate them, they'll leak against them. When we have Democrat presidents, you don't see that kind of behavior. In fact, they enlist the massive bureaucracy to issue regulations and rules and to sick their political opponents. This report right here, the Durham report, is actually very, very important because it gives the official seal to what is the American Stasi. At every step of the way, this FBI ignored evidence, did not get corroborating evidence, had no evidence, did everything it could to protect Hillary Clinton, and did everything it could to destroy Donald Trump.
So as Alexandria detailed a moment ago, Mr. Durham is not recommending any wholesale changes at the FBI regarding their rules regarding national security wiretaps or politically sensitive investigations. But they did make one observation, and that is he did recommend that the Department of Justice consider assigning an official to internally challenge steps taken during politically sensitive investigations. In other words, remember when it was inside of an election, 6 months before an election, and people said, why are you investigating, to Mr. Comey, Hillary Clinton? Because it's in that sweet spot where you're not supposed to do anything. Well, now apparently Mr. Durham is suggesting, why don't you have somebody who actually can, inside the DOJ, act as a referee, whether or not something is appropriate or not, given the rules that Mr. Durham said do not have to change, but somebody needs to be in charge.
How about staying the hell out of politics? This is an embarrassment to the FBI, the Bureau. This is so damning, worth every dollar of the $6.5 million. And just because people weren't arrested or convicted, it doesn't mean it wasn't unethical and it wasn't immoral. Sometimes you can't arrest people for being terrible at your job and being politically motivated. There's one thing that I find stunning, and I don't know if it's theater or not. This is the key. John Brennan briefs President Obama saying Hillary Clinton's campaign is looking to basically pin this Russia investigation and corroboration to get the heat off her and her emails.
Right.
Briefs Obama. But they never briefed the FBI about this similar move. So James Baker is told this during his meeting with John Durham. And James Baker evidently gets emotional. He's the same James Baker that was heading up Twitter for a while, was one of the key figures in Twitter. Gets emotional, storms out, and essentially said, that's the first time I've heard about that, and says he says that he wouldn't have done the investigation the same way had he known that Hillary Clinton was behind the dossier, behind the motivation behind it, behind Jake Sullivan is all over this. Mark Elias, who wouldn't sit down for an interview, is all over this. So many people are in this administration right now that knew all about this and helped tar Donald Trump while he was president. And they're rewarded with great jobs and a new administration. Jake Sullivan should be fired today.
And then you wonder why Donald Trump fights back the way he does. It's reasons like this. He's accused of so many different things, and then he was right all along when it comes to this. It was an unverified dossier that began all of this. There were those FISA applications. Information was withheld to the FISA court, and this is what Durham said. FBI personnel working on that same FISA application displayed at best a cavalier attitude toward accuracy and completeness.
Right.
Because it was incorrect.
Nothing was verified. The dossier wasn't verified.
His campaign.
And you're going to break this down later. 80% of what DeShanko put together for Christopher Steele, he said, I can't verify any of it. Christopher Steele said, I'll give you millions of dollars if you verify it. Yeah. Nobody could verify it. It was this guy Dolan, linked to the Clintons during the Yeltsin years, who took a tour of this hotel, who made up a lot of the salacious things that ended up being in the dossier. And all these pundits on all these channels talking about the dossier looks like it's really true. That thing is not worth the paper it was printed on. The people that did it knew it was crap, yet they used it to investigate Donald Trump. And here's the worst part. As a country, we got hurt. And think about the relations with Russia that were destroyed. As bad as Russia can be, you don't need to make up stuff about what they're doing to poison relations between two very powerful countries with nuclear weapons. It is insane. And Hillary Clinton just sits there and says, oh, when asked about this investigation, oh, I'm sorry, you have to go down that rabbit hole. Right. No, you dug the rabbit hole, and we found you in it.
Senator Mike Lee put out a couple of interesting tweets regarding this. He's going to be with us a little later on today, on this Tuesday.
Coming up, 2 staffers for a Virginia congressman, including an intern on her first day, are attacked by a man with a bat. What police are revealing about the random ambush.
Plus, is age just a number? Look how great Martha Stewart looks. She's making history, being featured on Sports Illustrated swimsuit cover. Her secret tips to looking great at the age of 81.
Wow.